taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty.
Greetings, people who put your money where your principles are. Today is going to be a special show, especially for our supporters. I'm not going to do any big fanfare. I'm just going to get into it. He has a plan, she has a plan, and you get to pay for it regardless.
The best way to get someone motivated is to stand for something strongly, deeply, passionately.
Subscribe to Disenthrall.
Do as you're told.
Okay. Let me get some buttons pushed here. What is up, everybody in Discord? How are you? Hello, hello, people in Discord. Can you hear me?
Hello, sir.
Hey, what up? You guys are the best and the brightest. The people that actually support the channel and the stuff that we do here. Welcome to the stream. It's good to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I mean, so this is just supposed to be a chill hangout, and I think the first thing I want to do is let you guys pick the background, the animated background for the background of the show. Which is your favorite? Can we form a consensus among us here?
What are the options? I didn't know there were several.
Yeah,
there was an old one and a present one, but
y'all's names have been on a lot of them. So we had. Why don't we do that? Why don't we go through? Let's see here. Let's go on a tour of the wallpapers from the last couple years. This was the first custom one that I did, I think. Yeah, this was the old school Disenthrall cube going through a tunnel. And it's got, the supporter names on the side. That's super old school. Then we had This one. This was neat. And we had this one rips off what's that sci-fi game that's never going to come out? Y'all remember?
Oh, Star Citizen?
Yeah, that one. That's a Star Citizen background. Then we had the hallway. This was one of the first ones I was super proud of. And,
I love the hallway.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Then let's see, we did this, which was a take on an album cover that I really liked. And this was the first one.
Why are you releasing your album?
I had somebody contact me this morning saying, man, I'm listening to your performance of the Lysander Spooner audiobook. And we need to make Lysander Spooner into some rap music to like get it into people's ears. I was like, and you're contacting me for this?
Nice.
Let's see. So we had that one. Then we had, this was the one that you guys like helped me render. This was the first one that was like a group rendering project that was awesome.
I've got to throw my tick on that because of the group render.
Okay. And then we have the recent stuff, you know, with the lockdowns or economic terrorism. All in favor of this one?
Yeah. Lockdowns are pretty good too. I can't choose.
All right, let's do this one. Let's do this one because you guys had the most help in rendering it, so that's awesome. You guys are welcome to turn on your video if you'd like, or not. It's fine, whatever you'd prefer. I have a couple things that I wanted to talk about, and I'm hoping that you guys have some stuff to talk about as well.
I had at least one thing that I wanted to bring up.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'll start. I see you guys over on Odysee. It's so good to start having an actual audience. Hold on. The live audience on Odysee is larger than YouTube. This might be the first time. Good job. I'm so freaking proud of you guys. Well done. What up over on Odysee? I see you, Sashit and Bogart. Good to see you over there. If you're on YouTube, you're in the wrong place. There's a link in the description. Did I put it in the description? Yeah, there's a link in chat, if nothing else, that'll take you to the Odysee live stream.
Yeah, there's one in the description.
All right, cool.
I'm looking on both. I'm not just on YouTube.
Awesome. And then for the people watching that aren't supporters, so they're not in voice chat, if you don't have a printing will continue until freedom improves shirt, you should get that. Disenthrall.me/swag. It is an awesome shirt. Okay, enough self-promotion. I guess I'll just start with the thing I wanted to talk about. And you guys are welcome to just sort of jump in and interrupt me if I say something you want to comment on. Like, you don't have to wait until I'm done because this might go on for a while. I have a lot of notes. So yeah, please, if you have thoughts, speak up. Okay. Can you hear me okay in Discord, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's see. I wanted to talk about conspiracy theorists. This is a sensitive topic, and I'm going to handle it with the appropriate amount of respect. Because they, as a collective, the collective they that are conspiracy theorists have been right about a lot of things. They have also been wrong about a lot of things. And they also lose us a lot of credibility in the eyes of the general population by making some errors in their reasoning. And I want to talk through this respectfully and carefully so that we can hopefully improve ourselves and maintain our credibility in the eyes of the general public. Why is this important? Well, let me get into my notes. Oh, somebody just popped back on. Let me get him over here. Somebody help me keep an eye on people joining chat up there. I might be too into what I'm talking about to notice that somebody's in main voice. What's up, Sea Pork? How are you? Oh, you might be muted. Let me see. No, you're good. I think you're muted on your end. Same for you, JC. Okay, so let me just sort of start reading my notes here. I wrote down, this is what I wrote. Your mind's immune system is critical thinking, rationality, reason, checking biases, self-work, self-improvement, domesticating, this is what we got from our reading of the Stoics recently from Marcus Aurelius, domesticating your emotions, making our emotions serve us instead of dictating our actions. These processes, like when we are handed an argument, a set of premises with a conclusion, demonstrating the validity and soundness of all of the premises in an argument before believing or acting on its conclusion.
Hey, Patrick, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Oh, excellent. Well, there you go. Well, good evening to you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay, awesome. I was just kind of going through my notes on conspiracy theorists. This is the topic that I'm bringing to the table today. You guys are welcome to interrupt me as I go, and if you have thoughts or comments, just speak up.
Okay.
All right. So let's see, where was I? Okay, so I was talking about demonstrating the validity and soundness of all of the premises in an argument that when somebody hands them to you. And validity and soundness are two different things. Validity means it makes logical sense. It's not illogical. It doesn't violate the rules of reason. Soundness means, is it actually true? Can you demonstrate with evidence that the premise is actually true? Because you can have a set of premises that are valid logically, but that are absolutely false. And so the conclusion should fail on those grounds of soundness instead of just validity. Putting your ideas and things that people hand you and they try and insert into your brain, putting them through this immune system of the mind is so important. It is almost to be human. If you're not doing this, then you are existing more as an animal than as a member of the human species. Seapork, if you could mute yourself until you're ready to talk, that would help keep the background noise to a minimum. If you want to say something, then go ahead and unmute.
Gotcha.
Yep. The last thing I wanted to say in sort of the intro was that I wish more people would recognize the power and wisdom in holding the I don't know position or the I am unconvinced position when the arguments that you're being presented with cannot be demonstrated or evidenced sufficiently. Like, there is like nobility and wisdom and power in saying I don't know. My position on that topic or on that proposition is I don't know. That is my position. And that is a healthy position to have. It's a difficult one to have because it feels like the weak one, when in reality, it's oftentimes like the most rational position to be in, right? So that was kind of my intro. Do you guys have any thoughts on that before I continue?
Seems pretty logical so far.
Okay, good.
Do you have an example of something that's logical but not sound?
Oh yeah. We can find that real quick. There's some good examples online. Okay, here's one. The following argument is valid because it is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion nevertheless to be false. Elizabeth owns either a Honda or a Saturn. Elizabeth does not own a Honda. Therefore, Elizabeth owns a Saturn. Now, if the premise is valid, Elizabeth does not own a Honda, but it might not be sound, meaning Elizabeth might in fact own a Honda. That's one example of it. Let's see if we have a better example here. So we can recognize in the case that I just gave you that even if one of the premises is actually false, that if they had been true, the conclusion would have been true as well. So that's validity. Consider then an argument such as the following. All toasters are items made of gold. All items made of gold are time travel devices. Therefore, all toasters are time travel devices. Obviously, the premises in this argument are not true. It may be hard to imagine these premises being true, but it's not hard to see that if they were true, their truth would logically guarantee the conclusion's truth. So this is another argument where it's not sound. Obviously, toasters are not time travel devices. But if they were, the argument is valid. So this is a valid argument that is not sound. Those are two different things. Was that a good example, or should I dig more for you?
Yeah, no, that second example did it for sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Kick ass. All right. So the next part of this is like why I'm talking about it. This is what I wrote for this. It is a disempowering thing to undermine your own credibility. Don't make yourself easily dismissed. It is dangerous and that's just for yourself. But as for your cause, the things that you're trying to make happen in the world, it is dangerous and irresponsible to the cause when someone using the labels we use for ourselves, like anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, libertarian, when they use those labels and then they act in a way that loses them credibility, or when they throw their credibility out the window by making poor arguments. If there are a lot of self-titled libertarians holding and touting nonsense positions, it makes all our attempts at waking new people up much more difficult. The longest running best conspiracy theories, and this is kind of getting into what makes something a conspiracy theory. The longest running best conspiracy theories are the ones that revolve around an imbalance of power. So usually the ones involving government or military or scientific authority. That's been a big one that we're sort of in the middle of for the past year, right? Ducks float on water. Witches are made of wood. Yeah. Voluntary Dan said that over on Odysee. Okay, so many of the early adopters of anarchism, and you guys have heard me talk about this many times, are damaged people. People that have seen behind the curtains of the truth of state power and authority. And that damage makes them hypersensitive to being damaged in those ways again. Like, you know, if we've suffered terrible burns over a large portion of our body, we're going to be extra paranoid, you know, and extra sensitive and hyper alert next time we're around fire or a source of getting burned again. That's natural. And a lot of the early adopters of anarchism being damaged by these power structures have a tendency to become hypersensitive to being damaged in those ways again. And again, that like it's like a total like that seems like, yeah, well, that's of course what happens. I don't think I'm saying anything super crazy or outlandish here. But that damage leads to the over detection of malicious or deceptive intent, or the recognition of structured nefarious plans being acted on when it isn't the case. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that there are no nefarious plans and that the government, that people in the government, certain people, specific people, have certainly acted with malicious and deceptive intent. But that's the difference, right? That's the difference between believing something that has evidence and something backing it up and believing something that doesn't. Like one is probably true and one is probably false. And the damage is recognizing that a lot of us are damaged and have a propensity to be oversensitive to things like this is just recognizing that bias exists in a lot of us will help us think more rationally about this stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. I have some examples of poor positions, but if you guys have any thoughts, I will like count to 10 if anybody wants to unmute and say anything. Do. This wasn't supposed to be like me talking the whole time, by the way. But I mean, this is just my thing that I wanted to talk about, so that's fine. Okay, so we're about halfway through my notes. I wrote, it's a mistake to hold positions that do one of the following. Overstate their case. So examples of this would be something like saying, all government employees are malicious, evil people. Well, I mean, like my mother was a 911 operator for a while, taking emergency calls, trying to help people. You saying that she was malicious and evil because she worked for the government? I mean, come on. This is a good example of overstating a case that loses you credibility and makes you more easily dismissed in other areas. Another one would be to say that cops are evil. Well, their actions you might judge to be evil because they're aggressive, but to judge the people as a whole, all of them, by saying cops are evil is an overstatement of the case. Another one that's common is people in the military are all murderers. So again, when you use these large collectivizing language and then apply wholly negative traits to large groups of people, you're almost certainly overstating your case, which undermines your credibility. Another one is asserting malintention or agency without being able to demonstrate it is another one. So this is one that you can't demonstrate the soundness of one of your premises. So it makes your argument weak and makes you more easily dismissed. Examples of this one would be like, the people in government are trying to destroy society. Well, first of all, which people specifically? Because certainly not all people in government. I mean, that would be an overstating the case example again, but maybe they're trying to help society and they have good intentions, but they're just doing it in a really wantonly retarded way that actually has a lot of damage or might even have the effect of destroying society. But unless you can demonstrate the soundness of the premise that they're doing it out of malintent, you're going to be losing credibility. Cops are evil are kind of the same thing. Like you're ascribing malintent. Like a lot of cops are out there thinking that they're the heroes, thinking they're doing the right thing. Now, their argument to say that they're doing the right thing happens to not be a sound one. But you're ascribing malintent without being able to evidence it. Were you about to say something?
No, I'm laughing.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What else did I have here? There is a cabal of people trying to psychologically manipulate the population with fluoride in the water. Well, this is a little bit more specific because they're saying that like there is a specific group of people trying to psychologically pacify people with fluoride in the water. But what if they're doing it because they genuinely believe that it helps your teeth? Well, you would have to demonstrate it, right? So like Occam's razor points us toward the explanation that is simpler or has less moving parts, so to speak. And it would definitely be an additional moving part to have a cabal of people working together in a subversive conspiracy to psychologically manipulate a population. That would require more secrecy, more coordination, additional steps, rather than just, assuming that the general population is good and they just believe incorrect things and therefore they think it's justified to put fluoride in the water. What else? Okay, here's another one. Having evidence in the form of other conspiracies that are themselves made up of these same problems. A lot of times when I debate conspiracy theorists, and I'm not using that term pejoratively, again, like I said in the very beginning, they're right about a lot of things that the normies haven't taken the time to piece together to see. I'm just, I'm talking about the invalid ones, the ones that go too far here. When you debate them, and you start checking one of their premises, they will attempt to justify or demonstrate one of the soundness of one of their premises by pointing to other conspiracies. That is a fallacious line of reasoning, especially if the other conspiracies that you're pointing to are also made up of premises that suffer from these same weaknesses, which is often the case. So you get into sort of like an infinite regression of conspiracies. Okay, well now we're not going to talk about this conspiracy anymore. Now we're going to go to its predecessor conspiracy that you're using to justify the first one, is what I'm trying to say. Another really common problem that I see or that I encounter is unanswered questions being used as if they are a premise in and of themselves. Like the fact that you have a question about something, about what? How did it happen? What's the explanation? That is not a premise. That is not evidence. That is not a demonstration that makes anything more sound. That's a question. Questions are great. Ask questions all you want, but questions are not evidence, is the point of what I'm trying to make here. And then the last one I had on my notes, and then I'll pause again if you guys have any thoughts, is not having a null hypothesis. Not having something that doesn't not having a mechanism to disprove the theory. Like if I can't ask you what would make you no longer believe that theory is true, and you don't have an immediate answer that would actually change your mind, you're missing a null hypothesis, and that's a problem. Let me answer some questions, and you guys are welcome to join in here, supporters in the chat. Let's see, Voluntary Dan says, there's a conspiracy theory about how the Titanic was purposefully sunk to kill off people who opposed the creation of the Federal Reserve. Plausible, but highly unlikely and lacking any solid evidence. Big claims require big evidence. Who said that? Sam Harris? Who? What's that quote from? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Was that Christopher Hitchens? I forgot who it was. What's up, ANCAP? Good to see you. Andre Moore. Oh boy, general topic. This is a supporter hangout. I'm here in Discord with anybody that's a supporter. If you are a supporter, you're welcome to join voice, and I'll pull you over into the stream. And we're just hanging out chatting about whatever. This is the thing that I'm not talking about. JC says he's muted and can't unmute on his end. Oh, I had you muted, JC. I apologize. That's fixed. Everybody that joins this channel is muted by default in the beginning, so that should be good now. JC, are you there? Mark Miller over on YouTube asks, what do you consider a conspiracy? A guy in the desert took down 2 of the world's largest buildings. Is that a conspiracy? Well, conspiracies, the definition of conspiracy are just people working together in a clandestine way to achieve a goal, right? That's a good question. I should have had that definition ready. A secret plan by a group to do something harmful or unlawful. The action of plotting or conspiring. That's a conspiracy. So, I mean, clear that those exist, right? That's happened many times, all the time.
I don't know if it fits exactly. It might fit with some of the things you've said, but have you heard the one about there's no straight lines in nature? Like the idea that you can have like a stone that is cut completely flush, and therefore there must have been a creator to whatever thing was cubed and put into place. There's a lot of conspiracies around that in different things that could be considered a structure, as opposed to what modern science might call just a geological event.
Well, it's called the watchmaker's fallacy when you're talking about the apologetics for God, right? If you were walking along a beach and you came across a watch, well, you didn't know what watches were, you would pick up the watch and look at it and be like, well, this is obviously not natural. This had a designer, therefore God. With a couple extra steps in between, right? But being able to look at something and know whether or not it was designed is using your knowledge of the status quo of reality. So if we were born into a different universe where where instead of sand, the beach was made of watches, and you just walked across the watches next to the ocean, and you bent down and you picked up a watch, you'd be like, okay, well, this is This is just how things are. This is natural. That's the issue with that, with the watchmaker fallacy. It assumes sort of naturalistic explanation.
Yeah. The thing I've always been amused by it, with some of the I don't know, pyramid-like structures, or not necessarily the pyramids, because we have an idea that they were constructed, but other structures where you have completely flat surfaces, is pyrite.
Ah, is that natural?
Crystal, that's natural.
Wow. No shit.
Fool's gold. If you didn't know exactly what pyrite was, it comes in a bunch of different shapes, and one of the big crystals is cubes.
Wow. I had no idea. Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're really.
we would look at that and be like, oh, well, somebody made it like that. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's completely flat. Yep. Geometric cube.
Yeah. Let's see. We had some comments. Andre Moore asks, what's up, Wobbly? Good to see you. How do you feel about grilled vegetables, says Andre, asking for a bigot. How do I feel about grilled vegetables? That's peasant food. Meat is bae. So is believing the government narrative on 9/11 a conspiracy, asks Mark Miller. The theory is a conspiracy, because a conspiracy is people working together to do something secret and harmful. So it is a conspiracy theory because it is a theory about something that happened that fits the definition of a conspiracy. Hopefully that answers your question. So yeah, a group of people working together to destroy buildings. It was a conspiracy whether or not it was the U.S. government or it was terrorists. Both of them are a conspiracy. It's a group of people secretly working together to harm people. So yes, it was a conspiracy regardless. The theory is that it wasn't what we were told it was. Which, either way, the public narrative that we were told by the news media and by the government requires just as much demonstration and critical thinking to check it for validity and soundness, as does the evidence in the other, or the theories in the other direction. I'm giving the people on Odysee my eyeballs first, so if you want me to see your comments first, you guys should be watching this over on Odysee, link in the description. Voluntary Dan says, is it a conspiracy to say the CIA created the label conspiracy theorist to discredit people who didn't believe the Warren Commission? I guess, I think there's evidence to demonstrate that. So, I mean, a theory is just an idea about how something works, a hypothesis, and a hypothesis about how something works. Certainly, the CIA has been demonstrated in the past to try and manipulate our perceptions and language to their benefit. So that doesn't mean this goes to what we were talking about when we were talking about reasoning. Just because groups of people working for the CIA have done things in the past doesn't mean that each and every new thing that happens was also done by the CIA. You know, each requires points of evidence and checking for soundness. Grilled veggies are cringe. Yeah, sure. Whatever works, man. Nature has a heap of straight lines. Yeah, we just saw some. Duck hunting makes frogs homosexual. Is that what Alex Jones says? I didn't know it had anything to do with duck hunting. All right, let me continue reading. To say that a person doing these things is wrong about other positions because they also, this is what I just said, Okay, so what I listed the common problems that I see in conspiracy theorists: overstating your case, asserting malintention or agency without being able to demonstrate it, having evidence in the form of other conspiracies, questions as evidence, and the lack of a null hypothesis. Those are just some of them. But to say that a person that is doing those things I just listed is wrong about other positions because they also hold positions that involve these issues is fallacious. Like, they can be right. They can say the sky is blue, and also there's a group trying to psychologically manipulate the population with fluoride in the water. Like, they can say, they can hold a position that's true, and it could in fact be true, and just because they hold a wrong position doesn't mean that their other positions are wrong as well. That's fallacious. But that is not how the average person sees it. The average person doesn't think that clearly and that rationally. So when you overstate your case, or when you assert baseless malintent, how much damage do you think you're doing to the other concepts that you're trying to promote in the world? And this, conspiracy theories are often compelling narratives, interesting stories that are assembled by looking at a field of data points, or worse, points where data should be but is missing in the case of unanswered questions. And then cherry picking the dots that draw a picture that make a compelling story, or a story or narrative that fits our biases. That happens a lot, especially with all of us that distrust the state. That's a huge bias, and so it's easy to look at a sea of data points and have our brain, the pattern recognition machine that it is, pull out a picture from that sea of data points into something that fits our bias that may or may not be true and may or may not be demonstrated as sound. So when it's done well, these pictures drawn from the dots will always seem plausible. It could have happened that way. And the best conspiracy theories are the ones where the finished narratives, or the malintent, or the agency, the structure behind the people working together to do this nefarious thing, it's when the way the data points are arranged and cherry-picked, it seems almost obvious. Like when they tell the story and they show you the data points and you're like, oh, well, yeah, it seems obvious. It was a conspiracy. That's how it happened. Those are the best ones. We have to be so careful. Humans are pattern recognition machines. They can look at a bunch of dots and see all sorts of pictures. And this is what I said a minute ago. And if our mental antivirus software is not running when we examine the sea of dots, we can and will see pictures that are just not there. And doing this stuff is going to get you and all of your ideas dismissed. You're going to be doing harm to the ideas and movements that you advocate for. Be careful. Don't overextend your case to the point where you're making statements that you cannot demonstrate. Don't undermine yourself in the ideas you're espousing. Don't kill your own credibility. That's kind of what are some more examples fresh in my mind is, and this happens a lot right now, mocking science in general as a method for discovering truth. Just because the government has so entwined itself with science and made it the gatekeeper of science, and the government pays for most of the science that's done, which does create conflicts of interest a lot of the time. It's a valid criticism. But that's not a criticism of the scientific method. That's a criticism of the implementation of the scientific method. So you got to be careful. Not to lose credibility by criticizing the scientific method itself. And if you're going to criticize an implementation of the scientific method, then you need to have evidence to back up, to prove your premises that are sound. And and that evidence, again, cannot be, well, there's, the government is nefarious, therefore everything it spends money on is also nefarious. You need to demonstrate that. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying, like I said in the beginning, the rational position to begin with is, I don't know. That could be true. What's your evidence? Let's examine it. Don't make assumptions in that area. Don't assign intent. Don't assign malintent without justification. And then the last thing I had on my notes is this has happened. There are people that do this. People actually assert that viruses don't exist, even though you can literally take pictures of them. Like, that is such an overstatement of the case that anybody would want to make. It makes it, and this is fallacious to do, make no mistake. Like, somebody that looks at me and says viruses don't exist, my instinct is to disregard every other single word that comes out of that person's mouth. Like, I'm not interested in any more input from you. I've already got too much noise. Your noise has already crossed my threshold. But that's irrational. The next thing they might say might be true, might be helpful. Chances might be lower, though. Anyway. Yeah, that's the end of what I wanted to talk about. If you guys had any thoughts, or if somebody else wants to bring something up, you're welcome to. Who's next? What's up, Liberty Clown? Let me unmute you. There you go.
How you doing? Is my mic working?
Yep.
So I'm sorry I joined late. I was out there taking care of chickens.
All good. You have chickens?
Yeah, I got 6. It's actually their birthday today, so we were celebrating their birthday.
Oh, chicken's birthday.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah, pretty exciting. 1-year-old. Yeah, no, I agree with the conspiracy stuff. I struggle with that a lot. Kind of cross the line into it's tempting to cross over once you're fired up about something, I think.
Yeah. And the problem I have with it, like, look, people are wrong all the time. The problem I have with it, though, is that because so many anarchists are damaged by the state, they're hypersensitive, and they tend to easily form and believe these positions that I'm not saying aren't true. I'm just saying that aren't backed up by evidence. And that undermines the credibility in them and in all the labels that they go by. Like, if you call yourself a voluntarist and then start talking nonsense, and then I come along, a couple months later and start talking to the same normie, and they find out that I call myself a voluntarist, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're another one of those nut jobs, right?" And they're going to more easily dismiss me because of the nonsense that somebody else said.
Yeah, I think that's why trolling is so effective, because people can wear whatever hat they want and make nonsensical claims and then tarnish the reputation of that brand.
Yeah.
It's definitely been happening lately.
Mark Miller says, I told my entire family about police, and then they got attacked by somebody with a knife. They ran to the cops. The cops said there was nothing they can do because they would actually have to work. I'm sorry that happened. That's not good. I shouldn't laugh about that.
Oh.
Mark Miller says he's not a fan of labeling. What do you mean by that? Because all language is labels. When people say that they don't like labels, I'm like, why are you talking then? Because when you talk, you're using words which are nothing but labels for concepts. Liberty Clown, if you can mute when you're not talking, I'm hearing myself through your phone. Thank you. I'm glad you guys are popping over on Odysee. It's good. We need you over there. All right, who else has something they want to talk about?
I might have a topic. I was thinking about kind of the psychology of the right versus left, and the different kind of personality types that you will find in either camp. And kind of in the middle, you can see the biggest divide, but I feel like on either extreme end, either complete voluntarist freedom or complete commie shit, you can find the same personality types when it's like the center of their personality completely, and like they cannot not do that. kind of like an obsessive nature, if that makes sense. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of overlap on either extreme, but not as much in the middle.
Okay. You mean in relation to conspiracy theorists or just in general?
No, in general, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. What do you guys, I mean, you guys are the people I should be asking about this stuff because you're the ones that support the channel. What do you think of the last couple months worth of content and how it's kind of been going in a different direction lately? Are you enjoying it or are you wishing for more of the old stuff? What do you think?
I'm not liking your readings of things.
You said you
Although
are or
I
are
need to
not?
catch up. Are.
Okay.
You know, it's a nice addition to the day, I think, is what I find with it. So thank you for that.
Okay. Anybody not liking where it's been going? Anybody say they want something different or the way it used to be? Now's your chance, man. Talk shit. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Mark Miller says,
Well,
I thought... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that it would be nice if we could get an OnlyFans, though.
No. No. Sorry. I mean, maybe, but no. If I did, it would be memes.
That ain't a bad thing.
$100 JPEG.
Maybe we could start an OnlyFans with memes, like Liberty Meme OnlyFans, and then take all the money and use it to like do charity work or help people. That might be a way to do it.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Call it Only Memes.
Only memes, yeah.
Mark Miller said, I thought I was libertarian, then the Republicans hijacked it, for example. Yeah, so that is a problem with labels, right? Because the language is manipulable. And there's a war on language constantly. Language is constantly moving and changing. So something you... Like, a good example, a contemporary example that affected me was like the boogaloo, the boog, right? So like, I was having a blast in the beginning with the boog memes. I was all about that. I was having a great time. And then some prominent figures got popular from a couple videos and started trying to morph it into something about unifying with commies. Like, that ain't me. I don't want anything to do with that. No thanks. That's bad strategy, bad tactics, dangerous, and gross. So,
I think
you know,
they found... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think they found something in common with us when they saw the boog stuff. I think they sort of looked at it and went, "That's their revolution. That's what we want. We want the violent revolution. The proletariat coming back and taking what's theirs, and that's what the ANCAPs are doing there with their boog," and they sort of jumped on it. I feel like that's what happened there.
I think a lot of people thought that they could convince the commies over to the other side too, thinking they could bring them over.
Mm.
And I think the commies thought the same.
I remember making videos about it early on, and I was saying that, look, these boog memes are great. Like, for the first time, memes were used to wake Republican police supporters up to the reality of what's going on, how their heroes are abusing them. Like, that was not something that was not a nut that was cracked until those memes came along from the boog at that time in history. That was huge. That was super powerful. I'm not sure who came along and tried to. I mean, I know who, but I think it lost a lot of support at the same time as the bottom unity crap started kicking up. I'm actually still thinking about making an OnlyFans for charity now. Actually, I think that is a hilarious idea. We'll have to give it some more thought. Good stuff.
Well, you can't have an OnlyFans without thought.
Oh, funny as shit. Funny as shit. I'm not watching on Float right now, guys. Just for the people watching there, their site's been having some issues, so I can't see chat right there. If you want me to see your chat, you got to be on Odysee or YouTube. Mark says, I don't want a violent revolution. I would prefer it if everyone would leave me alone, most especially the government. A question I asked in one of the morning think times recently, and I would love to hear if anybody here has answers to it, was, we spend so much time running from these centralized societal organizing structures because all of the ones that we've ever experienced have been involuntary. So my question and sort of challenge to people was, even in a free society, people are going to need to organize. Otherwise, you lose the efficiency of division of labor and specialization, which, has made modern society possible. So you're going to need, people are going to organize. That's the best way to say it. People are going to organize into some hierarchical societal structure. In a free society, which one do you want to live under? Like, what type of structure, what type of organizational structure would you choose to voluntarily become a part of? I don't think we spend enough time thinking about that. And I've been enjoying reading the books like Private Property Theory and More Equal Animals. And then I have another one coming up in a couple weeks that I can't announce yet, but it's somebody else's attempt to describe a voluntary society. Do you guys have any thoughts? Like, what would you like? Because we spend all of our time, like I said, we spend all of our time talking about what we don't want and what we don't consent to and what we don't like and how we just want to be left alone. Okay, well, now let's mentally say, let's pretend that we won, that we're being left alone now. Now what? What's next step? What do we want? If we can think about this and have a good answer to it and design something, then that will allow us to run towards what we do want rather than only run away from what we don't want. I think it's maybe a more important question, something important for us to think about. What do you want?
Whew, that's a hard one.
Sorry.
No, go.
I was just thinking, like, I don't have anything specific, honestly, because the whole thing is about removing the restrictions, opening up the free market, opening up all the possibilities. And that can be anything from you opening up a homestead, not paying $1 in taxes and just being left alone, to creating spaceships and going to explore the planets out in the solar system and whatever. It's just opening up the floodgates, opening up all the restrictions.
Again, let me be critical. Can I challenge you on that? So, like, what you described is still kind of running away from something. All you're describing is the absence of what we're running away from now. But all of the things that you described would require society to have an interpersonal organizational structure to achieve. You can't build a spaceship without a massive number of people cooperating together. What dispute resolution process would you like to voluntarily put yourself, become part of? What market system would you like to make yourself a part of, to associate with other people, to work on those larger projects that need a lot of people? I'm not saying you have to give me an answer like right now. I'm just saying I think these are important things to think about.
Yeah. Are you talking like dispute resolution companies and things like that? Or are you talking bigger than that? That's something that ties us together?
All of the above. Like, I think, like, there's all kinds of different frameworks for dispute resolution companies interoperating together separately. The biggest difference, the biggest paradigm shift. That's a bad way of saying it. The most different, like, so Rothbard, Machinery of Freedom, Molyneux, Everyday Anarchy, a lot of the ones that have come out in the past 10 to 20 years for systems of free society, even Private Property Theory, the book that we read, or I read, kind of were all very similar in that they only talk about people functioning individually, having these geographically decentralized structures of association. And then Dan Larimer's book that I started reading, a week ago, More Equal Animals, takes a more top-down approach to it, where it uses a voluntary, quote-unquote, voluntary geographical, societal, layered organizational structure, where you have, you start with like 150 people at the local, like, community level, and all those people, voluntarily agree to form that group, call it a town level group, or like a church group sort of level, that kind of small level. And they agree to resolve disputes amongst themselves using XYZ method. They agree to pool their resources according to, let's say, a popular vote, to accomplish things at the level of 150 people. They agree to, at the level of 150 people, provide collective defense at that level, those kinds of things. And then those 150 people could then voluntarily join up with other groups of 150 people to form, like, the next level up, to provide for the cooperation and interassociation that is more beneficial at that level. And then, let's say you had 10 groups of 150, and then you could have that 10 group of 150 then voluntarily join up with 10 other groups of 150. Anyway, you kind of see how it layers in together. Mark Miller says popular vote is still not voluntary. It is if you consent to it. You could voluntarily consent to, like, an HOA is a good example of a voluntary popular vote situation. Like, when you move into the area, you are given the list of bylaws. There's 150 homes in the neighborhood. You can agree to live here, and if you are, your property is going to be bound by the popular vote of the 150 homeowners in the area. Each homeowner gets one vote per property or whatever. That's a voluntary popular vote. The word government is one of those now twisted to pointlessness words. The term is and always was governance. Defined as people delegated tasks and infrastructure. Government means fascism. Yeah, to govern is to control. And the only implementation of government that has been involuntary. So if you're going to start using government to mean something consensual, I think you got to be real careful, because you got to be real careful when you change fundamentals of words like that. What's up, Toe Sweat? Nice name. But just because you don't want to participate in an HOA doesn't invalidate the concept, right? Like, you can see what I'm saying. Hopefully you can see my point, that as long as it's consensual, then a popular vote can be voluntary, right?
So are you looking for specific rows, like specifically how would they?
It was open-ended, man. I just wanted to
Hitmen and all that.
I just wanted to challenge people and see if they had any thoughts on the subject. Like, We spend so much time telling people what we don't want and why we don't want it and trying to get away from it and trying to protect ourselves from it. I don't think we've spent enough time trying to think about what we do want so that we can be running towards something, so that we can be creating and not just escaping. There's power in creating. Like if we know how we want it to be and what we want to run towards, then we can start creating that now in whatever capacity that we have to create it, and we can create and run towards something. There's a lot more power. This is coming from like studying Stoicism. Like there's a whole lot that we don't have power over, and there's a whole lot of stuff that all we can do is run away from. But there's also a lot we could be creating if we can just put thought into it and figure out how and figure out what would work. And the other thing is like there's this built-in bias, and it makes sense, right? Like we spend our whole time running away from what we don't want. And anytime somebody comes along with an idea about what we might want, what we should be running towards, our instinct is to be like, oh no, you're trying to come up with another organizational structure for society. And those are all bad. It's like, well, no, they might not all be bad as long as they're voluntary. If whatever their design is voluntary, then they might be beneficial. They might be worth checking out. They might be worth some thought. That's all I'm saying.
Just first thing that pops into my head is apartments. People who rent their living space. Why not push the kind of cultural norm for the apartment to come with security?
Yeah.
You don't have to have a private security outside of that because, well, most people are at home. Sure, you can probably have patrolling out in the city as well, but most of the time you're going to be, at home. That's where shit goes down, right? So just having that a part of your monthly bill.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to just have the option to pay for my own security, because then, I'd have a group of people that might be actually looking out to protect me. Because if they fail to protect me, I would stop paying them. That would be awesome.
And just as a side note, I really love your idea of, you had it on another stream. What was it? GoFundMe Hitman. Awesome.
Yeah, that one will get me banned off YouTube real quick, for sure. Yeah, it looks like the float stream just went down. They're having a lot of issues over there. I don't know what's going on. So, anybody watching on float, I hope they come over here.
Yeah,
Mark
it's
Miller,
interesting.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, read Mark Miller's. Go for his.
I'm not saying I wouldn't volunteer for some communities. Would you ever consider starting something like that on, say, 450 acres in Arizona or any place the state would consider us an autonomous zone? I don't know if that's the right answer. The thing I've learned from cryptocurrencies is that anything centralized is attackable, is vulnerable to attack by the state. And so if we focus a lot of people in one spot, we get Waco'd much easier. So I wonder if the solution we should be looking to create is something decentralized, because those are the only things that seem to be resilient against the government. And this goes all the way back to like the Revolutionary War in America, right? Like the strategy that worked against the redcoats was decentralizing the troops. It was making them run off into the forest and hide behind trees and pop out as individuals and fire off a shot and then pop back behind cover, rather than trying to march in rank and file out in the open together as a unified group that can be, easily rounded up and destroyed. Seems like that's been the lesson of how to actually or over in Iraq, another example, right? Like a bunch of individuals sort of working together loosely, disparately, not forming a fighting front. The state has the resources to destroy anything with a unified front to it. So decentralized solutions seem to be the way to go. What can we make up in that area?
In saying that, though, there is a few different communities over there in the States that are so big that there's only one cop in the entire state. Well, I don't know that it's a whole state, but the whole area, and he's alone. Everybody else is part of the religious organization of some kind. But if you were to get enough people together like that, it turns into a, do we massacre them, or do we just leave them because we're going to have a massive fight on our hands if we go anywhere near them?
Yeah.
And they'll choose the massacring choice option because Waco, obviously.
I wanna shout out Fallstar's little profile image here, the Boog Bucket. This is a callback to a video game stream that we did on this channel. We played Half-Life Alyx in VR, and I had a bucket that I found in the world, and I carried the bucket around full of grenades because without the bucket you could only carry one grenade in each hand or whatever. So I had a bucket, and I would just hold the bucket in one hand and fill it with grenades, and I called it my Boog Bucket. It was freaking hilarious. Oh my god.
That was great.
What were you about to say, Hickok?
I've been thinking about getting out of the States since that one stream you had. I can't remember who it was. I think he was the guy in Saipan.
Yeah, Alex Ugorgi.
Right, and I've honestly even been thinking about sailboats. Been looking up prices, and they're not that bad.
Yeah, used sailboats are insanely cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, like 20 grand for a pretty nice one, you know?
Yeah, like
small one, but
you're probably
40
not
for a really nice one.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get something that you could cross an ocean for 20 grand, but you could definitely get something that you could, sail around the coasts with or something,
Maybe not sail across oceans in like whenever you want, but when it's the clearest time of the year, 20 grand, 25 grand, you can get like 27 footers.
You want to cross an ocean? I guess you could cross an ocean in 27 footer. I've seen some people on YouTube do it, but man, it looks sketchy when I watch them do it.
There's certain times of the year when it's just clear weather, you can just go during those times of the year. So you're a bit more restricted when you can go, but you can still do stuff.
I think if it was me solo, that might be more appealing, but I got a family and kids, and I'm afraid that after like 3 years of that, we would want to switch back to living on land somewhere. And that's not a lifestyle that you can easily switch in and out of. Like, sell all of my property on the land and move to a boat with almost nothing and just kind of live YOLO solo, and then want to switch back to land. Like, that's tough, man. That's tough. But no, I just
thinking about that too. And sorry, there are so many people all around the world now spreading out, buying land all over the world. I feel like you can stop in little spots all over the world, take your rest, settle down for a few months, and then hit the sea again, go someplace else, experience a new place, and then maybe stay there for a few months and keep on hopping. Especially if we can get enough people doing it and enough people buying a little piece of property here and there, that's as decentralized as you can get right there.
That's
island
true.
hopping.
ANCAP says he did the same thing with the Boog Bucket. Yeah, man. It was hilarious. Shout out to ANCAP. He plays a lot of VR games. You should go sub him on Odysee and YouTube. Land has become super expensive in West Virginia. Yeah, same in Texas. Land's going nuts here in Texas right now. All the Californians are moving here. Trump asks, you're not necessarily against government, you're just choosing to not be a part of it if you can be officially recognized as other. I'm against anything involuntary or that is non-consensual. So what you're probably familiar with is the Founding Fathers' Declaration of Independence, when they said that a just government has to govern with the consent of the governed. Well, I think it's pretty easy to show that in our day and time, the government has no care in the world for your personal consent to it governing you. I think the whole thing is an invalid, non-consensual gang at this point.
You signed nothing?
I signed. Oh, yeah, you got the meme. Man, false starting with the memes. Wobbly says, I agree. The whole van life, yacht life is defeating the point of getting permanent tenure to land for life that can't be bought or stolen from you if you run low on money. I mean, there's ups and downs, man. Like if it was just me solo, that might be a fun life, you know? Get Elon Starlink for solid internet and go float around the ocean. I mean, it's a sliding scale. Like in the modern world, the more free you want to be, the more options you give up, the opportunities you give up. So like you can be really freaking free in the middle of the ocean floating in a yacht by yourself. But what can you actually do out there? You're pretty limited. So yeah, take what you want and pay for it. Is what the Stoics would say. Recognize the truth of the world that you live in and decide accordingly what you want, what's important to you personally. There's no one answer for everyone.
Depending where you go when you're on the ocean, you might have to get rid of some guns.
True. Yeah, there's certain little pieces of the oceans that are not very free at all. Yeah.
Depending on where you go on the ocean, you might want to be keeping those guns, like off the coast of Somalia.
Yep.
This is true.
I think I'll just hide them.
Will, you hopped out of voice chat, man. You're a supporter. You need to be in here instead of on text. Are you really a collapsitarian? No way. Really? You need to come in here. You need to come on voice and argue that case. Because I disagree with you.
You reckon it's going to go as far as to where freedom-minded people just can't really be in the Western world anymore? I feel like we're just sliding down that scale ever so quickly, and well, either it stops or it doesn't, in which case I don't see much other than Siberian wilderness, Brazilian rainforest, and ocean. You know,
I mean, I think the U.S. is still one of the most free places on the planet, with a few exceptions. But I can't even make that statement for all of us, because the freedoms that you value versus the possibilities and opportunity costs that you value is going to be individual. So, like Saipan, arguably more free in a lot of the ways than here in the U.S., unless you really value living in a tech center for entrepreneurial reasons, or unless you really value like big city life, or unless you value living near a lot of your friends, because most of your friends are not going to move to Saipan. So like it's like you go ahead.
Sorry. There's two different kinds of freedom too. There's freedom on paper, like you can legally own guns in the US. You can't do that in a lot of places. But then there's also practical freedom. Like in Serbia, you can just bribe the police for like nothing and they'll just leave you alone.
Yeah.
So there's the two sides of it as well. Like here in the US, you really can't do that. And in that sense, it is a lot less free than a lot of other countries. I've been around like 25 countries now, and a lot of them, even in Europe, are more free in the practical sense.
Because you can bribe people. The problem with bribing people
because
is that
they're just, the government isn't as big. Like Saipan, that's what your guest was talking about, right? They just don't have big enough of a government to come after you for tax shit.
Yeah. Will says, I don't pretend to have perfect answers, but I think the federal government needs to collapse. Maybe the state government can provide some cover for a while. I don't think that's terribly unreasonable. I have a feeling that the federal government wouldn't go down without taking all of us with them, though. I'm not sure how that would work. Not that we have really any capacity to affect change at that level anyway. It's almost like the future of what's coming over the next 10 to 20 years is almost completely out of all of our control, and the best thing, we need to concentrate on pulling the levers that we can pull, that we have the ability to pull, and that just means getting ready, like being prepared, being safe, make sure our family is seen to, and in as a prepared situation as possible, because, you know, whether or not we want it to collapse, we have very little ability to control that outcome. What's going to happen is going to happen. So we should focus on what we can control. That's what I think. I'm good to hang out for about another 30, 45 minutes here. Does anybody have something else they'd like to talk about?
I had a quote that I heard just recently, which I wonder what you thought about anyway.
All right.
And that is, without... Whoa. One moment.
What is that? New Zealand has been rated #1 worldwide in human freedom.
Oh, yes.
What's that, America? I can't hear you over my freedom. Oh, that was in 2013. I don't think whoever made that rating would make that rating today.
I don't know. They might. There's a lot of people here that think that is 100% the case. Because, you know, getting rid of your guns is part of freedom.
That's a Kiwi, right?
Yes, that's a Kiwi word.
Okay.
Which is, incidentally, the reason for the name kiwi fruit. They used to be called Chinese gooseberries.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that's your, what is it, mascot? What do they call them?
Yeah. Hey, you got the bald eagle. You got one. Arguably cooler.
I don't have shit. That's somebody else's.
You're right.
You know, if we're comparing mascots, you know, maybe the bald eagle would kick the shit out of that one. Just say it. Why go with that bird? Like, wouldn't you want to pick something slightly more badass if you were picking an animal?
We did have an eagle that was much, much larger than even the bald eagle, and the native people ate it to extinction, so it doesn't exist anymore. So I guess we just have to have this little one.
What is the most badass animal in New Zealand?
Ooh. Unfortunately, probably the possums, which were imported to get rid of the rats that came off the boats that the Europeans brought along that were killing the native species. They also introduced cats. They're kind of badass too. So we've got rabid feral cats in some places.
So kitty cats.
Nothing native.
And possums. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Right. Nothing really native.
Okay. Well.
In school, I got to learn about all of that. All of your fuck-ups. Like, the cats, the rats, all of it.
Oh, it's terrible.
Voluntary Dan says hobbits. You have hobbits. That's your most badass animal.
There we go. The quote that I heard that I wanted to share was, without proper heroes, society's villains cannot be understood and thus ensued.
Say it again.
Without proper heroes, society's villains cannot be understood and thus ensued.
And you want to know what I think about that?
I thought it could be a good topic to talk about?
The thing that comes to mind to me is my experience in the Libertarian Party of Texas. When I wasn't involved, now I'm not saying there weren't principled people involved that were loud about it like I was before me. I'm just saying that when I was involved, I was one of the few that were super principled. Or at least super staunch about the libertarian principles. There was no one to measure anyone against. And so the most libertarian person in the room, without a calibrated measuring stick, you don't know what, you can't measure something. You can't just tell by looking without a, does that make sense? And, this sounds really hubristic to say that I was the measuring stick. I'm not saying I'm perfect. That is not what I'm trying to say. It's just that if you're going to compare one thing to another, you have to have something calibrated to compare it with. And I think it isn't hubristic to say that I was more staunchly libertarian than most of the other candidates. And so just existing in that space gave a point of comparison that was very powerful that wouldn't have existed had I not been in that space. So that kind of seemed, that's what I thought of when I listened to your quote. Like, without a hero, it's harder to see who the villain is. Without that's what I thought.
Yeah. I heard it in the context that I heard that in. And yes, I did see. I do think "ensued" is probably misused in the quote, but the context that I heard it in was in relation to superhero movies and things like that, and how a lot of the heroes that are being put out there are being put out there as like evil. Like the archetypes of them anyway. So you take like the boys, the main character. I don't want to spoil too much for anybody if they haven't seen it, because it's great, despite what I'm saying. But the main character there, or one of the main villains, I guess, is a Superman archetype, but he's evil.
Yeah.
And if Superman is evil, because we don't have a lot of Superman in the media anymore, then what's good? And if the Joker is good, like from the movie, the recent one, then what is bad? And it just, like, society's heroes, especially when we're becoming more atheistic, they're just being manipulated to the point where, what's good and what's evil, and what is society at that point if we can't look to something to hope for, or even something to hate, i.e. the Joker,
Yeah, Hollywood has adopted whole cloth postmodernism, which is kind of what I think you're describing. It's post-morality, post-good and evil, moral subjectivism. I think, and I've talked about this, and I think when I interviewed David Stewart on Disenthrall, we talked about it then too, because I think he's done excellent content on it, where he talks about how Hollywood doesn't know what good and evil is anymore, because they have actively rejected anything with a strong moral compass that makes behavioral judgments of other people. So when you lose the ability to judge someone's actions in an objective way, and when you've lost the balls to project a judgment on somebody else's behavior and actions, when you lose that, you don't know how to design a hero. You no longer know how to write a story with a villain, because it's all gray to you. Everything's a shade of gray, between but somewhere in between white and black. And so that's what David Stewart was making the point about. Hollywood having just lost the ability to write good heroes and villains. A good example of that The Boys was an interesting example of that. Actually, that might be a counterexample to that, because to write the characters on the level of the evil of the characters in that video, I think you do have to be familiar with good and evil. I think you have to know the hero archetype, and you have to know what goodness is to be able to violate it as fundamentally as they did in that show. Now, whether their motivations were to skew good and evil in the minds of the people of the general public, I don't know. I can't assign that intent to them, but I think Game of Thrones was a good example of what I'm talking about. I can't think of a single character that was wholly good or wholly evil in that entire thing. Everyone, and it was almost like the author did this on purpose, every character was gray and did something evil. And I don't mean that just as like, I demand that everything I ingest has an angel and a demon in it, like as if that's like in some kind of overt campy plot. What I mean by that is like, none of the characters were trying to be wholly good. They weren't even attempting to be the good guy. They were all just sort of law of the jungle, doing whatever that served them the most at the time, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, I guess you could correct me. Somebody can maybe correct me if I'm wrong there. I watched everything except the very last season of that show just because I got tired of it. Like, if I find myself attached to characters that have some kind of moral philosophy driving them, even if it's, I mean, obviously I'm not looking for philosophers, but just somebody with something there. And I just got tired of just like, I found myself multiple times watching Game of Thrones being like, man, this is just a bunch of shitheads killing each other. It's like, why do I care about any of these people? I think, like, you know what it was? It was at the end of the first season when I don't think spoiler alerts 10 years after the fact is a bad thing, but when they killed Boromir at the beginning of the first season, and that was the last character that I really felt had an actual moral compass. And that's when I stopped giving a shit about all those people. Like, after that, it just became a gray moral morass. What other examples are? I don't know. Like, everything Hollywood's come out with the past 5-10 years has just been gray. It's been mush. I'm trying to think of what's been good, man. Like, it's well,
have you noticed? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, have you noticed, and I don't necessarily want to just jump into the nuclear family stuff that goes on, but in Hollywood, you never see a nuclear family anymore. It's always a broken family in some respect. And it's also never a broken family in the respect of like the father was killed or the mother was killed. It's always one of them left. Or was like never really there in the first place. You never get the well, Spider-Man's not quite the right thing because he was with his aunt and uncle, but you never even get that really. You never get the dual parent situation, and it's always the outcome that is arguably the worst for the child that they show.
Isn't it the norm now? Isn't it the norm rather than the exception now? I haven't checked the statistics. Maybe somebody can. That aren't most kids parented single parent? I mean, didn't that cross the 51% barrier a few years ago?
It might have done.
So wouldn't it be the anomaly to tell a story where that wasn't the case? Like, isn't that just fucking where we are? Like, as depressing as it is.
But I think when you're telling a story, I'm very interested in stories, like the structure of them and things like that. But when you tell a story, you're trying to tell some kind of hope. Like, that's what you're trying to achieve in a really base sense. I mean, a story is art, and when you think of art, art is something that should be beautiful, not grotesque, like a lot of art is today, especially if you go into an art gallery, you might see a bag of shit on the ground. Might be on fire, I don't know. But like beauty is what we enjoy. It's what we search for. It's the things that we want to put up on our walls. And yeah, there's exceptions to that. But for the most part, I think most people are looking for some kind of beauty, some kind of structure, some kind of hope. And when the stories that are out there, the hero that you look up to, the Superman, the God, Moses, Jesus figure that is displayed to society is evil, is broken, is corrupt in some way, where's the hope? What am I to achieve? I was watching a live stream where they were talking about exactly this, but the thing the host said was, nobody's that perfect, and all I could feel from that was that I'm not going to try. Because yeah, you're not a perfect being to the point where you can never ever do wrong. Like there is distinct flaws in being humanity that allow us to, I guess, do great evil. But that doesn't mean you can't strive to be the best human you possibly can. If you got given all of Superman's powers, that doesn't mean you have to go and be a peeping Tom flying around the town looking through walls. It doesn't mean you can you're going to rob banks and do all the things that you could do. You could sit there and say, no, I'm going to resist the urge to do all of these things that may well be there, and I'm going to do the best I can. And you might fail. You might do some wrong. I know, coming to libertarianism, coming to be an ANCAP, looking at my past, I saw the things that I did wrong. It was a very painful experience, but now at least I can strive to do better. And that's the hope that I think is lost in Hollywood, in stories in general. Even in video games, we see the same kinds of things.
It's the tyranny of low expectations as related to all kinds of stuff. Like if somebody convinces you that you're a victim and it's hopeless, then you're less likely to try to succeed, to be successful, to overcome. Which is, I think, what you're kind of saying in terms of good and evil. Like if somebody has you convinced that no one can be a really good, virtuous person, then you have the chances of you actually trying to be that or become that is lower. I have
peacefulparenting.com. Just saying.
I have to give some shout outs. Holy crap. Thomas, I never know how to say his last name. Zerabzan? Thomas Zerabzan, who works for Float, just did I don't know what, they're not called super chats over here, are they? What are they called on Odysee? No, he doesn't work for Float, what am I saying? He works for Odysee. What are they called? What are the super chats called on Odysee? Crap. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, we'll call them a super chat. He just super chatted 200 tip things. Hyper chats. I like hyper chats. Hyper chat it is. Thank you for your 200 hyper chat. That is awesome. He says, thanks for streaming with us. Dude, the honor is literally all mine. Thank you guys for existing, and thank you for giving me early access to live stream on your platform. I've been trying to do it as often as possible on all of my platforms. You kick ass, sir. Thank you. Awesome. All right, cool. Hickok, did you have any thoughts on that? There was something else I wanted to say. I forgot.
Only one thought, just that they're teaching this stuff in school too, like they did when I was in school. Like, yeah.
Bogart says even Boromir wasn't good. He chopped off that guy's head for fleeing the wall. Yep, I forgot about that. You're right. Voluntary Dan says you never see a healthy family, masculine men or feminine women anymore either. Most kids are, and he says, yep, most kids are being raised by single parents, mostly single mothers. It's that applying moral judgments thing that they are unwilling to do. They attack anything that dares to judge somebody else, to apply a moral judgment onto somebody else, is anathema to the left, and the left runs Hollywood, so Hollywood's going to follow that. And the absence of judgment is sort of an unthinking, anything goes, absence of good and evil, moral gray. That's kind of what it's all wrapped up in what we're talking about. Like Hollywood has lost the ability to write good heroes, villains, and good stories in general, because writing good heroes and villains requires applying moral judgments to behaviors, and if judging somebody is bad, then you have no ability to write something that is bad, because to write something that is bad would be to judge their behavior. It's a circular contradiction. It's a blind spot. They've blinded themselves. All right, guys. Well, I've had a good one. Last call if anybody wants to talk about anything. Now is your chance. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap this up as our first inaugural supporter exclusive Hangout live stream, Chill Time. I've enjoyed having you guys on. If you liked this, if you're interested in doing the supporter stuff again, maybe we'll do like a monthly thing. Do this once a month.
I think it's been really great. Thank you for having us, Patrick. Or me, rather. I shouldn't talk about the us. That is the wrong kind of speak.
Don't collectivize them. Yeah. All right, cool. Over on YouTube, Mark says he's lost most faith in humanity. Well, sorry about that. Humanity is awesome in a broken sort of way. I haven't lost my faith in them, because if you zoom out enough, man, we're still on a trajectory towards liberty. If you zoom out enough. If you zoom in to 10 years, 50 years, even 200 years, we're having a pullback. We're having a market retraction, as they say. But overall, I think the needle's still headed in the right direction.
Find some heroes. That's what I'd say. Find someone to really look towards, even if it's made up, even if it is just Superman. That might help.
It sounds like something Jordan Peterson would say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. I'm not Jordan Peterson. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Supporters, man, you guys are awesome. You are the rare few that put your money where your principles are and trust and honor me with your support. And I hope I really try and work to live up to your expectations, to be deserving of your support, and I'm going to continue to do so one way or another. The next several months of my life are going to involve some big changes for me and my family. I don't know what that's going to mean for my ability to produce content regularly, but I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to give up on this. We'll see how it goes. I guess now would be a good time to give my thoughts on what's coming for the channel next. Actually, this is the perfect time, right? Because this is kind of like a meta discussion to the supporters. Definitely going to finish More Equal Animals. I think I'm definitely going to continue reading books with commentary, because I don't think I've gotten a single bit of bad feedback from those that I've done. The most that's happened is the view count is lower, because I think people people prefer this content where it's interactive and we're chatting about things, and I'm trying to make points in real time. Like, obviously that's preferred, but the reading stuff, I've gotten a lot of good feedback from a lot of different people, especially on More Equal Animals. There's been some good feedback on that. So I don't have the next book planned yet, so if anybody has something that they would like to see me actually dig into and read and parse through, let me know. The next the think time things, I think we've hit a month now that I've been doing that every morning, 15-20 minute streams every day. The view counts are really, really low on those, but the people that are watching seem to really like it. So I'm torn on continuing to do those. I think the reason why I shouldn't continue to do those is because it might harm the channel's overall subscriber count over time, which might make the other content I do reach less people. So that's a downside. You guys can let me know your thoughts. But I kind of enjoy doing them, and the people that do watch them, you know, the 20 people, 30 people that do watch them seem to really enjoy them and have given me pretty consistent feedback that they would appreciate it if I continue doing them. So I'm torn on that. What else?
Better to host it off channel.
Like where?
On your website.
Oh, I see.
Little
Okay.
MP3s or something.
What'd you say, Hickok?
Or Disenthrall 2, like just make a separate YouTube or whatever.
Oh, another channel for nerdy philosophy type stuff. That actually might be the best answer. Actually,
Get that algorithm working for you. Yeah, let's face it. That's not happen. Not for us.
What would we call that? We need a name for the channel. What would be a good name for the second channel? I'm kind of feeling like Think Time would be a good name for it.
Yeah.
Shepard's thing too. Doesn't he have a series called Think Time, or am I mixing that up?
Does who?
Shepard.
Yeah, it is kind of a ripoff of his stuff. He does Shepard Thinks. I don't know. Does he call his videos Think Time? I don't want to actually like rip off his name.
I don't think he calls it Think Time. I think it is Shepard Thinks. You could always invite him on to do a little think time.
Patent? Call it patent? Like Pat hyphen ent. Patrick Entertainment patent, but it's kind of like intellectual property patent.
Nice.
Maybe. Yeah, I called the videos Think Time because that's what I call it for myself. Like every morning I have what I call Think Time because I hate calling it meditation because that's some hippie shit.
Yeah.
So I have my Think Time, not my meditation time. So I just called the videos that.
That'd be a good scope for the channel. It's not actually hippie shit.
Yeah, it's not meditation. You just have that as like an underneath banner on the background.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of down for that. I think that'd be a good way to separate the content so that it doesn't mess up the subscriber base on Disenthrall. Not that there's, a massive subscriber base anyway, but it's such a different kind of content that I am worried it's gonna harm the subscriber count because it's just a different type of person that's going to be interested in that content. That's totally right. Should we do the book reading over there too, or keep that on the main channel? I don't know. Kind of think I should keep it over there too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay, I got to talk to Kaysen and see what he thinks. He's got good ideas. I see Kaysen will probably say to leave it as part of Disenthrall because he'll be like, why not?
Well, I think you're right though. It could hurt the subscriber base.
No hippie shit here, Voluntary Dan says. Yep, exactly. No hippie shit here. All right. What was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, I'm low-key legit considering... we had talked about this. Was it Fallstar? I think we talked about it. I forgot who exactly. We talked about starting a crowdfunded charity thing, because there used to be one of those and it had some issues and may have become run by questionable people. And so there might be sort of a hole in the ANCAP quote-unquote community for some kind of crowdfunded charity group that allowed people to sort of subscribe or crowdfund money that could then be sort of awarded to people that are having tough times or tough bad things happening. Or I'm thinking of like a Make-A-Wish sort of thing. Like when Dagny was diagnosed, we were inducted into the Make-A-Wish program, and Make-A-Wish sort of still to this day actually still pop in every once in a while and invite us to cool activities and stuff like that. I think it'd be cool to have some sort of crowdfunded thing for stuff like that. If you guys are interested in working with me or joining sort of a crowdfunded effort for charity like that, let me know. And if there's enough interest, maybe we'll kick it off and get it going. I would want it to have... Oh, it was Christian. That's who it was. I was talking to Christian about it. He had some ideas on it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was me.
Yeah, I would want it to have really clear rules for who it helped and how it helped them. And I would want it to be really transparent in terms of the money, precisely what all the money was spent on. I wouldn't want any of that done secretly.
Yep.
Because anytime you involve money with anything, there's just a massive risk of people getting butthurt, drama. I don't have time for any of that. So it would need to be super simple and open, sort of, not open source, that's the wrong word, but really sort of publicly operated. And there would need to be, I'm not sure what a good way would be to choose who would get awarded the charity, because there's drama in that too, right? Like, so if somebody thinks that, if they've been a supporter of the charity project for a long time and they think that you should have supported somebody and you didn't, then they're going to stir up drama. I don't know. I'm not sure what the way around that is. I need to find a way to do this, maximizing the charity and the benefit to people and minimizing the drama, because I don't have time for the drama.
Really specific intent could be good for that. Like whether it's like legal case stuff, like funding people's bills in that regard, or helping them with a medical problem, i.e. Make-A-Wish. Things like that would be good ideas, I think. Because then you can't really get butthurt over it if you know exactly what is going on. You might not like the person, but you know that it's going to the right place.
Yeah, that's good thoughts. Mark says, could you create a charity cryptocurrency, like a charity currency on a blockchain? Ooh. How would that help? Like, what problems would that solve? I guess is my question. I think it might introduce more problems than it solves, right? It would be harder to get donations if people had to flip their currency into an altcoin. They'd have to flip their fiat to crypto and then flip the crypto to your charity altcoin, if that's what you're suggesting. I don't know.
Can we just have ANCAP coin?
I would be surprised if nobody's done that.
Yeah.
Oh, but we do. It's called Monero and Pirate Coin.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, I'm not sure what book I'm reading next, but I'm going to finish More Equal Animals. I'm interested in starting a charity project. I am pretty sure I'm going to create a separate channel. So if you're interested in all that, keep an eye out. Join the Discord server if you have If you have ideas or thoughts or recommendations, join our Discord or Matrix server for the charity project.
Or if you like playing games.
Yeah, that's a good point. We play games. We play video games almost every night over on our Discord server. So if you enjoy games, join up. If you have ideas for the charity thing, join the Discord or the Matrix server and toss me your ideas. And if you want to be involved in designing it, contact me. Let me know, and I'll get a team together and we'll try and work out a structure. I'm pretty motivated to do that. I think that's needed. I think we should do that. I think we need to.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all need to create more. We need to create what we want the world to be like, not just run from what we don't want the world to be like. I'm more convinced by that than ever, than anything else right now. We need to stop running from what we don't like and start creating what we do like and what we do want. I also
That's
have
a project in itself.
I also have ideas and designs to create a dispute resolution company, like a legit, principled dispute resolution company that people could sign up for today. Like, I want to start creating what we want rather than just bitching and protesting, because protesting doesn't work, and political parties, because that doesn't work. Like, so much activism is a waste of time. Let's create some stuff. That's a challenge to each and every one of you. Go create something for liberty today, and then let me know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, supporters. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be on the Discord server later. I'm going to go be with my family for a little bit, so I will catch you guys later. Take it easy.